Well, Happy New Year, everybody. It's Christy and Alonso. 2024 is here, but we're not done with 2023 yet because we haven't told you our 10 favorite films of the year. Christy, kick us off.
So here's how I did my list. I don't like to rank them anymore. You know what? It's my list and I can do with it as I see fit. Right. And so I used to rank them, but like 6, 7, and 8, they're all a jumble. It just depends on what day it is. 6 could be 8 on Wednesday and vice versa. So what I do is I pick my favorite movie of the year and then the rest are all alphabetical from there. So, and we will have links to all of my picks and Alonso's picks down in the description. But if you've been with us for a little while, you may have already seen us talk about these. Anyway, we can revisit our reviews and savor the nuggets of wisdom. My number one movie of the year is Poor Things. And
Yes.
I was sort of a sucker going into it because I love Yorgos Lanthimos and I love The Favorite and The Lobster and Dogtooth. And like, I knew going into it that I was going to love it.
Sure.
But it even exceeded my expectations as far as how wildly imaginative it is and the performances. I mean, Emma Stone is doing just this incredibly big, broad performance that's also like minutely fine-tuned in the slightest ways. Mark Ruffalo is hilarious. I never knew where it was going. It is gorgeous in every technical capacity. Cinematography, costume design, production design, the score, like it's so inspired and so weird. And ultimately, though, like very uplifting. So I kind of loved it. That's my number one.
Yeah, I thought we were going 10-1, but okay, starting at number one,
Sorry.
also, that's fine. We've already talked about this. Poor Things, also my favorite film of the year for all the reasons you mentioned. Yeah, this is a film that tackles some big ideas and some sort of big sweeps of history and humanity, but at the same time is like funny and absurd and morbid and, you know, all of these kind of balances that Yorgos Lanthimos knows how to pull off. And particularly, you know, you and I recapped The Great on our Patreon. And so, you know, to have that writer come back from The Favorite to do this same kind of, you know, a female awakening story. We referred to this at one point during the LA Film Critics voting meeting this year as Art House Barbie.
It is a lot like Barbie. She has to go out in the world to find out that she already knew who she was.
Exactly. Yes. So, yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely. The best film of the year, no question.
Yes. Okay. So then from here, I'm alphabetical. I don't know if you rank yours, but from here, I'm going to do the alphabet.
I ranked, but it's fine.
Okay. Are you there? God, it's me, Margaret. Which I'm guessing it might be on your list as well.
My number 8 ranked, yes.
Okay. So, you know, it's just such an iconic book and they took it and they did such authentic and sincere things with it, but also it feels fresh and alive. And that's in the performances, that is in the every bit of production and costume design. Rachel McAdams is one of our 2 winners for supporting performance at LA Film Critics. I get to give her award next weekend, which I'm thrilled to do. They nailed it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that there was a lot of ways you could have screwed this up, and Judy Blume famously just didn't want to have anybody adapt this for a long time. And, you know, I think when you've got the writer-director of The Edge of 17, and then you've got James L. Brooks producing it, you just come up with something that really honors the material. And, you know, for all of the great sort of 1970 specificity in this movie, it's still timeless. You know, it doesn't feel hokey and dated in any way. And it's just a smart movie about like the awkwardness of adolescence and about, you know, that whole challenging time in your life and how adults can be helpful, but sometimes they don't entirely know what's going on either. Yeah, beautifully acted throughout. I love this movie.
What is your next one?
My number 10. Or no, we're going 2. Sorry, I'm all backwards and confused now.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. My number 2 is La Mensità, which we reviewed. Italian import from a trans director, Emmanuel Criolese, and it is another coming-of-age story about a trans kid in early 70s Italy. Actually, would make a really great double feature with Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. And I think about it, Penelope Cruz gives one of her 2 great performances this year as this kid's mom, who's the one person who really sort of understands what her child is going through. There are these wonderful musical flights of fancy and to unpack a couple of critic words, some of them are diegetic and some of them are non-diegetic in terms of they either are really happening or they are like, sort of imaginary. And I love the way this story was told. I love this character. I love, I didn't know until later this was a really sort of autobiographical coming of age film. But it's just terrific. And I feel like a lot of people kind of slept on this one this year. So I hope you'll check it out. La Mentata is currently streaming on Prime Video.
It's a good year to be Penelope Cruz between this and Ferrari. She's great. My next one is a documentary, Four Daughters, which we did not get to review here, but it is streaming and you should find it, about a Tunisian mother who has four daughters. Her two younger ones are at home with her. Her two older ones get radicalized and run off with Islamic extremists. And it's how they explore that abandonment and that rift and that sense of loss with reenactments with actors playing those daughters, but then also another actress comes in and plays the mom, and sometimes the real mom is side by side with the actress mom. And within this artificial structure, these really devastating and deep emotional truths emerge. And so I was just endlessly fascinated by it. The playfulness of the structure within a story that is really, really hard to watch. So I was impressed by all that.
I'm a little less enamored with this one, and I know I'm in the minority. Like, people love this movie. It screened at Cannes this year. To me, I'm fine with a documentary that does reenactments and that brings actors in for certain things, and sometimes it's necessary to tell the story you want to tell. But I felt like this movie took such a long time to sort of establish its parameters. Okay, now here's that, and now here's that, and now it's like, okay, just get on with it already, And so I got a little impatient with it early on. It does have some very powerful moments. This was a strong year for docs. We saw a lot of great ones. This was not necessarily one of my favorites, but I get why people are into it.
What's your next one?
My number 3 is Barbie. A year ago, would we have guessed that this was a movie that we were going to be taking this seriously? I don't know that we really saw it coming as much as, like, yes, it was the new Greta Gerwig movie, but this film, I think, really kind of blows out of the water the idea of what an IP movie is. She and her co-writer Noah Baumbach take, a cash grab, let's make a movie about a beloved toy, and really turned it into something smart and deep and far-reaching and humane. And I just am constantly in awe of the achievement that was accomplished here, and the fact that it really resonated with audiences and became such a huge hit. But yeah, I loved looking at this movie. The performances are great. It's really smart. It's really funny. It's quite moving. The scenes with, like, America Ferrera and with
Rhea Perlman.
Thank you. Really, like, caught me by surprise. So yeah, absolutely a movie that we are going to be talking about for a very long time.
Oh yeah, I love a lot about it. I think it drags a lot in the middle, and the whole thing in the void at the end with Rhea Perlman goes on way too long. But, like, I love the costume, production design. I love Ryan Gosling as Ken. There's just is a lot to love here. My next one is Killers of the Flower Moon, which I think might be on yours as well.
It comes right here. Actually, it's my number 4.
Okay, let's do that then. Okay, so it's just epic. I mean, it gets its arms around so much in terms of American history, but also in the smallest details with the performances, and just culturally and production wise, there's just so much to look at and consider. And Lily Gladstone is tremendous in it. And then, like, 2 hours in, Jesse Plemons shows up and it becomes a totally different kind of movie. But it's a true American epic, and you've got to see it on a big screen to appreciate the sound design and the score, all of that.
Yeah, no, definitely. The craft here is off the charts. I mean, from the production design to the costumes to, the performances are all great. I love that this is a movie that questions its own existence at the end in a way that I found really just brilliant and provocative. This is a great movie that I think brings up a lot of tricky questions about American history that most of us don't know nearly enough about.
Right.
Is also a very compelling narrative.
My next one's May December, which I think is probably also on your list.
It's my number 10, yes.
Just the tone that Todd Haynes finds here is so difficult in terms of it being like a lightly mocking kind of melodrama, but ultimately exploring really serious issues about identity and relationships and art and the ethics of art. And that whole dance between Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore is just so exquisitely tense and darkly funny. And Charles Mountain's kind of heartbreaking in it because he's just so stunted and stuck in the middle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We often talk about how Todd Haynes famously studied semiotics at Brown, and so much of his films are about like the thing and the representative of the thing, or the symbol of the thing, or and so this much is you have this story, but then you have like the various angles into the story. You have the person who's trying to like reenact this story, and it brings into, like you said, all these sort of questions about control and manipulation and what the truth really is, and and it's also very darkly funny at the same time. This is a movie I think that operates on a lot of levels, and I think really rewards multiple viewings because there's a lot to sort of parse here.
What's your next one?
Coming in at number 5 is Godzilla Minus One.
Yay! I'm so glad we saw this movie. This is one of my most favorite discussions we've had on here.
Yes, definitely. And I think, again, like Barbie, not a movie that we saw coming in terms of what the results were. I mean, I've enjoyed a lot of the contemporary Godzilla movies. Shin Godzilla is terrific. But this one really kind of cuts to the quick of what these films were originally about. And I think really updates the narrative style of them in a way that I found really fascinating and unexpected and again, provocative and moving. This is, I think, if there's a through line of the best films I saw this year, it's the ones that really kind of made me viscerally respond in one way or another, whether it was just whether it was laughing hard, whether it was crying, whether it was horror or awe or whatever. And I definitely responded a lot to this film.
It was a great surprise. My next one is Oppenheimer. Again, like Killers of the Flower Moon, you've got to experience it. It is very long. It moves breathtakingly, and it encompasses a period in our history that like we need to examine, and it does it in a way with the time hopping that is constantly revelatory and provocative, and everyone's great in it. It's just this gigantic ensemble cast, and the score and the sound design and cinematography is just all that like top-notch Nolan stuff. He makes films that are events, and this feels like a return to really engaging storytelling after the chilly and cerebral exercise of Tenet.
Not a fan, but go back and watch our original review if you want the details there.
I loved Oppenheimer and you loved Barbie, so there you go.
Yeah, there we go. We got it covered. Number 6 is Bottoms.
Oh, good one. Yeah.
This was a movie where, as I said in my list on the film verdict, I felt like I was watching the rules of screen comedy being rewritten. In a way that I haven't since Heathers, maybe. Just in terms of how audacious it is and how blunt and yet, delicate and clever and willing to be shocking, but have some point to that and not just like trying to engender an audience response of horror, unlike something like, say, Dick's the musical, which I thought sort of just went out, so you'd be like, am I shocking you yet, and it kind of fell flat for me. This movie I just found just jaw-dropping from start to finish, constantly surprising, constantly audacious, and I loved it.
For sure. And like Heathers, it is like a recognizable but slightly askew version of High School.
Exactly.
Right. It's not trying to be totally realistic, but like there's stuff that you recognize there for sure. Next for me is Past Lives, which I think is also on your list.
It's in my top 20. It didn't make my top 10. Just
like exquisitely tender and heartbreaking, and gets to really, I think, universally relatable notions of like, what if, right? Like the long ago lost love, and what if you'd gone down that path, but does it in a way that feels really personal and really culturally specific and really intimate. And Greta Lee is just incredibly lovely in it. And it's just a lingering mood that stays with you for long afterward.
And there are no villains.
No, right. You can see this from everybody's perspective, right? And
Absolutely.
everyone's right here. So,
Yeah.
what's your next one?
My number 7 was Jonathan Glazer's The Zone of Interest, which we talked
Ooh.
about recently.
Mhm.
But again, a movie that I viscerally just kind of felt in my gut.
Mhm.
This is a film that, you think you've seen every possible cinematic approach to the Holocaust. But this one, I think, really kind of expands upon the notion of the banality of evil, of these people
Mhm.
who know what's going on the other side of the fence from their lovely little family house, but don't particularly seem to care much about it, and are more concerned with their creature comforts and their status and other things like that. And the sound design, I think, really plays a huge role in this. Another movie I would say, if you can see it in a theater, do see it in a theater so that you can hear it in a theater.
For that, and for the Mika Levy score, and just to
Yeah.
appreciate like the precision of the way that he frames every shot and what he wants you to see and the importance of what he places where in
Yeah.
a frame. So yeah, that's a great one. My next one is Scrapper, this little indie that no one saw that I'm gonna just keep talking about until everyone sees it, with Harris Dickinson and Lola Campbell, and they are an estranged father and daughter who have to come together and figure out how to be in a relationship with each other after tragedy hits them both. And it's funny and sweet and reminds me a lot of Paper Moon in that kind of estranged and kind of off-kilter father-daughter relationship. So I really loved it. It is streaming. Scrapper.
Yes.
A very charming little British indie.
It's on Paramount Plus. Do check it out. I like that one very much. It's adorable. My number 8 is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. What's next for you?
Next for me is Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Okay. I love the first one, and I thought, how do we top the first one? And they did. Like, it's just more. But it's not just more for more's sake. It's like incredible variety of animation styles and the energy and what they cram into the frame and how all of that is germane to Miles Morales' journey. And it's just alive and so constantly vital and vibrant. And again, one that you cannot watch only once. There's so much to see. It's so fun. And like the score is really fun, but there's also real emotional stakes. So I loved it.
No, it's a great one. My number 9 was RMN, which we didn't get a chance to review. It's Christian Mungiu. He did 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days, and Graduation. He's one of the key players of the Romanian New Wave. This is set in a small town where, in Romania, where most of the adults have gone to like Germany and other countries in the EU where there are higher paying jobs. There's a local bakery that is hiring for new employees, and the wages they're offering are not great. So they wind up importing workers from Africa, and the locals get very upset about this. And so it's very much kind of a critique about EU economics. It's also this blistering look at sort of small town groupthink and racism, ironically set at the Christmas season when we're supposed to be welcoming the stranger. It is bleak and darkly funny in the best Romanian way, and has a 12-minute sequence in like a town hall meeting that's one sustained shot. That is one of the most breathtaking things I saw in a movie last year. It's out there now on streaming. Check it out, RMN.
Okay, cool. My next one is another documentary. It is still a Michael J. Fox story. I was so impressed with the structure of this. I thought it was so cool the way that Davis Guggenheim takes Michael J. Fox's own words, him reading his own memoirs, and like illustrates what he's talking about with examples from his TV and film career. And so it's not necessarily him talking about Back to the Future and then Back to the Future shows up visually. It's like it's a pastiche of his entire, decades long career. And Michael J. Fox is still just so charming, and still, like, despite the Parkinson's, still has this quick wit and the twinkle in his eye. And they established very early on, this is not going to be a mawkish kind of eat your vegetables movie. It's funny and it's intimate. And I just thought it was inspiring without trying to be inspiring in a traditional kind of way. It's on Apple TV Plus.
And my number 10 was May December, but I will run through real quick my 11 through 20, which were Frederick Wiseman's Menu Plaisir Les Trois Gros, which is out in theaters now, Anatomy of a Fall, an Argentine film called The Delinquents, American Fiction, The Boy and the Heron, Past Lives, The Color Purple, Showing Up, Priscilla, and The Holdovers.
And I have an extra one too, because it's kind of a cheat, and that is the 4K restoration of Stop Making Sense. One of the absolute best times we had at the movies this year. So
No
fun.
question.
Get up, dance, sing. I've seen it a couple times now. It's just pure joy. And in a year where we had Taylor Swift and Beyonce putting out these like behemoth concert movies, which were very entertaining, Jonathan Demme and the Talking Heads show them how it's done.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us this year, you guys. We hope you enjoyed your 2023 with us. Let us know your favorites in the comments. And we did a worst list, so come back for that.